All right, welcome to episode number 37 of the Canadian Prepper Podcast, recorded September 27th, 2019. My name's Eric. I'm the host of the show. Based in Southern Ontario, I'm a hunter, target shooter, ham radio operator, VE3 EPN, and a computer geek. I got into preparedness when I was working frontline emergency services, and witnessed an over-reliance on emergency services during major events such as ice storms, power outages, etc. I started a small preparedness company to help people get prepared and be able to look after themselves for at least 72 hours, if not longer.
My name is Ian, and I live on a small hobby farm in BC. I'm an outdoor enthusiast, sport shooter, reloader, field officer for the CCFR, and my farm's designated handyman.
I'm Alan. My friends and family call me a safety nerd. My background as a first responder has developed my mind for safety. I teach first aid, coach my family and friends to be better prepared. I'm a locksmith by trade and have worked in the physical security industry for more than 20 years now.
If you want to help support the show and keep the Canadian Prepper Podcast on the air, you can buy a Canadian Prepper Podcast t-shirt at rapidsurvival.com. All the proceeds help keep the lights on and the backup generator fueled.
If you're enjoying the show, please take a few minutes and like us on Facebook at facebook.com/Canadian Prepper Podcast and submit a review on iTunes. I heard there's a few new ones. Also, we want to get your feedback, good or bad. Let us know if there's a topic you want us to cover, or if you like or dislike something we're doing, you can email us at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca.
All right, so we've got some bone-chilling content for you in this episode. We're going to start off with some news articles related to preparedness in the outdoors. Next, we'll be letting you know how we've improved our preparedness since the last episode, which was a little while ago. And then we'll get to the main topic of this episode, camping in the winter, because old man winter's coming.
Shh.
I know.
It really is, though. I found an article. This is going back a couple of weeks now. This is going to be from our last episode, but the last episode didn't happen. This article is from Australia. He was an Australian man, fell while hiking, went over a waterfall, and broke his leg. Subsequently had to immobilize himself and then drag himself to help some 5.5 kilometers away. Nobody knew where he was. Nobody knew he was going to be missing for a few days. He had no means of contacting anybody. And he lost his phone in the fall. So he was, it was 2 days before he was finally found by rescuers.
Probably a few takeaways from that one.
Just one or two.
Yeah, we could spend an entire episode just dissecting that one event.
Maybe we'll have to do that.
I think we will at some point. Yep.
Well, it's actually kind of funny because the second news story I had there, a man got dragged from his tent and eaten by a grizzly, which is kind of related to the waterfall one, and the fact that unlike the waterfall guy, this guy actually had a personal location transmitter. So the good news is they found his carcass right away. Bad news is he got eaten by a grizzly. So. But yeah, he was able to hit the emergency beacon and just send out a distress call. It's just he didn't have anything to defend himself with, so he was half prepared, I would say.
When seconds count, the police are only hours away.
In that case, they're literally hours away. So he went halfway on preparedness. Never go halfway.
No.
Yeah.
Was he expecting the bear to go, "Oh shoot, somebody's coming! I better leave now"?
Those satellite beacon has been activated. I don't know, man. But yeah. Anyway, so that was in the show notes as well. But the other one for the tinfoil hat crowd, I love this one. It's just like the beginning of Stephen King's book, The Stand. So they had a bioweapons lab explode in Russia, and they finally confirmed it after about 2 weeks after everybody knew it had happened. And a weapons lab storing Ebola, anthrax, and the original Black Plague got released.
Oh.
And so if we see a bunch of sudden sicknesses spreading across Eastern Europe, I guess we know what happened.
Yeah, that's not good news at all.
That's how zombies happen, man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's pretty cool stuff. Anyway, that's all I had for that.
Tinfoil hats out.
Yeah.
No.
Yep.
I've got
Stock
one.
up on your N95 masks, everybody.
Yes, absolutely. Those are going to help. No.
Best place to buy those, rapidsurvival.com.
Look at that. Thanks for the plug. Appreciate it.
That's what we're here for.
So I've got one article here from the Calgary Herald, and it's warning of a significant snowstorm expected to slam southern Alberta this weekend. So I figured that was a little appropriate given the topic we're talking about today. And that is posted as of September the 27th, 2019. So it is as of today. So they're expecting that this weekend, and they're expecting Wind gusts of about 50 kilometers an hour, and they're looking at as much as 60 centimeters of snow. So that's a little
if
crazy.
you're going to get a first snowfall of the year, I suppose you might as well make it a big one.
Go big or go home, I suppose.
It is like, I mean, despite the
The Alberta
stereotype,
way.
it is actually unseasonably early for Alberta to get snow. So, or at least southern Alberta. So that is going to be huge for those guys.
Yeah. So if you're out that way, start getting your preps sorted out.
The best time to start prepping is yesterday. The second best time is today.
You got it.
I'm going to get that tattooed on me somewhere.
Make it somewhere appropriate, and you can show us.
Or inappropriate. Maybe we get some more ratings.
There we go. I'm just going to go back to your rooster, there, Ian.
That's right. We just get a paywall for all the
Right. Yeah.
all the racy stuff.
Yeah. So coming soon, you can these episodes. Let's move into what we've done lately for our preps. And what we've done lately. Go for it.
I'll take this one. What we've done lately for preps is brought to you by Getout Stayout Canada. They're the creators of the Getout Stayout Campfire Grill, and they can be found at getoutstayout.ca.
Well, you guys caught me flat-footed this week. I pretty much did nothing for preparedness, but I've been away pretty much the whole time for work. Just got back last night. I think you guys have been pretty busy as well, but yeah, I guess that's part of the reason we've been delayed so much, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. During one of my little 36-hour stretches off, we managed to get that livestock auction out of the way that I mentioned last episode, where the girls were going to send in their chickens. And surprisingly, I was blown away. The one of the girls got $180 for a total of 3 chickens.
Oh.
So
that seems like a lot of money. Is that a lot of money? I'm not in the livestock world.
Normally, if you can't give away roosters online, like you could actually like literally feed yourself forever on the island here if you were willing to go pick up people's unwanted roosters. And so the 3 chickens that we have were as a rooster and 2 females called Urban Trio. And the females were in lay, and normally you get for a hen that's in lay, meaning that they've actually started to lay eggs, you might get $20-$30 for one. So yeah, about triple the going rate. So, but supposedly these people wanted them they wanted them for like almost like not emotional support chickens almost, because they wanted to have chickens that were like not afraid to be petted and stuff. And because we hand raised all of ours, they paid $180 for the 3 of them.
Wow.
Yeah. So that paid back.
Emotional support chickens.
You would be shocked.
I am shocked.
Yeah, they have emotional support animals, pretty much every type, way, shape, and form. But chickens actually like hugs. They give hugs. They do such other things. They also taste good too. Nothing against that. But yeah, so lots of feed got paid back with that one.
No kidding.
So other than that, just a quick resupply of the farm for me. A couple maintenance items, oil changes, tire changes, stuff like that. But interestingly enough, I'm going to take credit for something the wife did. She actually tried something called glassing eggs, which basically is another way to preserve eggs that doesn't require refrigeration and doesn't just leave them on the counter. So when you glass eggs, you actually have a bucket of water with some hydrated lime in suspension, which is, I think it's basically like oyster shell that's been baked and crushed up. So it's kind of like a calcium kind of powder. And so what you do is you mix it in with this hydrated lime into the water, and you can actually put 50 dozen eggs in a 5-gallon bucket and have them suspended in the water. It keeps them sealed up. And supposedly, if you keep them dark and cool in a closet or whatever, that's good for about 6 months to a year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we threw a bunch of eggs in a bucket that we had extra, and we're going to give that a try, and we'll kind of break them out after a month or two. And as long as it's not starting to smell, we'll give them a try and see how the preservation method worked.
That's interesting to see how it goes. I've never heard of that either until tonight. Now, I did see somewhere, and I forget where, that somebody oiled eggs. They coated them in vegetable oil or olive oil or something, and
actually mineral oil.
Currently sealed them. Mineral oil. There you go. Yep.
Any sort of oil that will actually seal the pores of the egg. So they say food grade mineral oil, which is the mineral oil comes in 2, I guess, viscosities. There's the heavy and the light. The heavy stuff makes you poop. I think the light stuff is more what you're after. And so you cover it with this, I think, without taking off what they call the bloom of the egg. So you don't wash them. You just cover them with oil. And they're good for 6 weeks to 3 months on your countertop.
Wow,
Interesting.
Yeah, no, that's good. And then this glassing eggs thing, supposedly we paid way too much for our hydrated lime on Amazon, but I suppose you can go to a concrete supply store and get the exact same stuff in a giant bag for about a quarter of the cost. But that's we'll see if it's successful first before we go to do that method.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, that's really interesting.
Yeah, so that's something.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. I'm
hearing how it goes.
Interested in the results. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did some canning last couple of weeks. We put down about 60 jars of salsa, tomato sauce, and pickles. 60 total jars, not 60 of each. We've been eating the salsa, or a few jars of salsa. I haven't tried the pickles yet, but we'll find out how that goes. On a bit of a kick with my car, I've put off some maintenance things. I fixed the muffler, replaced the battery. I got brakes and rear hubs coming, and looking at putting a block heater in for the winter. So out there to all the people in podcast land, let me know if a shade tree mechanic, excuse me, like myself, can do that. I'm trying to learn how to do everything myself, so I'd like to figure it out. But I've never installed a block heater before, so is that something I can do, or should I hire a pro? Can I screw it up? Can I screw up my car by trying? So,
well, actually,
let me know, guys.
I can give you the answer right now if you want.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's funny because like when I lived in Southern Ontario, same thing. The car didn't come with a block heater, and coming from Alberta, I was shocked. I was like, "What do you mean no block heater?" And yeah, it is mildly warmer in certain spots than Alberta, but it's still something that just makes it easier on your vehicle to start and warm up, and you get that oil warmer faster, right? So there is actually a little circular cutout in every engine out there. It's called a frost plug, and basically, as long as you drain your radiator first. Get all the fluid out. You can knock out the frost plug with basically a screwdriver and a hammer. Make sure that you have a spare plug from Canadian Tire that's the right size and everything ahead of time in case there's a screw up. And you basically take that out. You basically put your block heater in, and usually it plugs into space or threads in, depending on the vehicle. And then just run a cord to your battery and or electrical cord up near your battery so you can plug it in. That's good to go.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, look at that.
What I'd really like is to have a block heater, because they're block heaters, they're battery wraps as well, right? That keep the battery from getting too cold.
Well, that's a battery blanket.
Also, battery blanket, yeah. And I would also like something that actually keeps the interior warm so that it doesn't, my car, so the windshield doesn't frost. That's my next. I don't know if such a thing exists, or if I could just put a little space, like a little micro heater in there and just run it off the battery or something. But
well,
the step down transformer and.
Yeah, the little buddy heater would drain your battery pretty much overnight, but you can do like a battery blanket. They're available at Canadian Tire for like $13, and they're awesome too because you get the higher cranking amps out of it if you keep the battery warmer, right? And then also the little buddy heater, you're gonna have to use an outside power supply because they'll drain your battery in about an hour and a half. So, but they do work great, but there is a fire hazard associated unless you get like the super duper tip over safe ones and everything else.
Well, yeah, I'd obviously have to do it in a way that keeps it safe, but I'd love to just keep even just at like 1 degree, just so that there's no frost on the windshield.
Yeah,
my thing is that when the pager goes off in the middle of winter, then I don't want to have to be like scraping the windshield before I can go run a call. But I also don't want to be doing the Ace Ventura thing out the window because my windshield's covered, right?
Yeah.
Well, you won't be catching any bugs.
I'm looking for a solution to that. Yeah, you wouldn't get any bugs. So once again, out there to the podcast land, if there's a solution there, let me know what it is, and I want to give it a try so that my car is toasty warm sitting in my driveway when I get in it at 3 o'clock in the morning when I'm half asleep.
Yeah, and most of them come with thermostats too. If you get a small little block heater, like the Little Buddy brand or whatever, they usually have some sort of a thermostat. Might not be based on temperature, but just a setting. You can work it out.
Oh, that's
Oh, still there?
Or even if you just had a timer, ran it for 10 minutes every hour or something.
Yeah,
I don't know. We'll figure that out. But that's gonna be another thing. A couple of weeks ago, we practiced an escape drill with the kids from the house, which was mostly just getting out the back window onto the roof. From there, it's about a 6 or 7 foot drop to the deck. But I'm confident that if the house were on fire, then we could do that without much trouble. 6 or 7 feet's really not that far a drop. So practice doing that. Everybody can get out on the roof. So there's that.
Awesome.
Hopefully we never have to do that for real.
Fingers crossed. For me, I have been on the road the last 2 weeks. So haven't really been home to do much. Have implemented the typical walk around the hotel that I'm staying at that particular evening and mapped out a few different exits in each hotel, which I've made a habit now since I can't remember what episode number that was that we started talking about that. It was a little while ago now,
early,
but
yeah.
But so that is now part of my my habit. Every time we end up in a new hotel, I will map it out and try and find all the different little ways in and out. So I did that for the various number of hotels I've been in the last 2 weeks, and that's been pretty much it for me.
So I guess Andrew pretty much ruined us both for relaxing right away when we get to hotel, huh?
Yeah, there's no relaxing now. I'm the weird guy walking around and everyone looking at you like, where are you going? Don't worry about me.
Just over here. It's fine.
Over here.
Just
And
over
now
here.
I'm over here. And now I'm over here. And now I'm at the bar. All right, let's move into the main topic.
All right. So first off, I have to quote my daughter here. When I was talking, she's asking me what I'm doing tonight for a topic, and I told her, and she goes, "Winter camping, Dad? Like seriously, who does that?"
It's
All
fun.
the cool people.
Yeah, old people
Uh-huh.
that are super cool and stuff. I don't know.
Cool
Masochists.
winter.
Yeah. Who doesn't do that is the better
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, get with the program. So I guess my 2 cents on that question right off the bat would be like, well, we can't all bug out in 30-degree Georgia summer heat like The Walking Dead. So
Wait a minute. What?
yeah, in Canada, I think better than 50% chance you're probably going to be leaving your house in an emergency in less than ideal weather. So
It's usually the way it goes.
yeah,
Winter also presents a higher risk of hazard, right? You're less likely to be able to get home, right? If you get caught in a snowstorm, you're burning fuel. You've got heating season, so you're more likely to have a fire in your house and be displaced.
Yep.
There's so many, little bits and pieces we could point at there, but the overall reality is that there's equal to greater opportunity for an emergency in the winter than there is in the summer.
well, I'd say even the current people in southern Alberta right now, some of them might be about to experience winter camping in their car overnight.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I
That's
mean,
true.
it happens, right? It happens every year. People get stranded. It happened not far from here last winter. We're going back 5 years ago now, but a snowstorm blew down the 402. Thanks, by the way, Ontario government, for putting a major highway right through the snow belt.
That's great, isn't it?
That was solid planning. But 150 kilometers of highway got closed all at once because of a sudden drop of 3 feet of snow. To the point that search and rescue helicopters from Trenton, Ontario, had to fly to us to this area to evacuate the people on the road. Now, the OPP and the local snowmobile clubs were out on their machines going down the highway checking on people, but everybody was stranded there for upwards of 24 hours.
Wait a minute, there's snow
It
in the snow
happens.
belt?
That's
There's snow in the
weird.
snow belt, a lot of it,
Come on.
and it just shows up all of a sudden.
That's like living in Tornado Alley and being surprised by tornadoes.
Well, they don't call it Tornado Alley because tornadoes
It's
come through.
They didn't call it Thunder Road because there were a lot of storms, Ian.
Yeah, okay, sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh, jeez.
Anyway, I guess for a couple of my talking points there for the winter camping, prepare for a slower than normal pace, no matter what you want to do with yourself.
Yep, everything takes longer.
Oh, yeah.
Everything takes longer, and it's kind of a pain in the butt, but it is a good challenge. So I'm actually kind of glad we're talking
No,
about this.
if you're doing it on purpose, because you want to go get away from it all, then it's nice because you can't get too far ahead of yourself.
No, you can't at all.
You have to slow down. You have to take a break. You have to, and your next point makes is the big one, right? Layers, which comes back to layers and insulation, which comes back to moisture and air. Like the first rule of winter camping is if you sweat, you die.
Yeah.
Don't sweat.
Yeah.
You work just hard enough to keep yourself warm, not hard enough to make yourself sweat. Because if you sweat, you are going to get cold, and when you get cold, especially if you don't have anything to change into, it's gonna hurt. You are going to regret it.
Well, yeah, actually, it's kind of funny because when I was a kid, I did the Boy Scout winter camping thing in Alberta, and the one piece of advice my dad gave me before I left was, whatever you're wearing during the day, don't get into your sleeping bag wearing it just because it's warm.
Right.
Get out of that, put in something dry, then hop into your sleeping bag. Might suck a little, but you'll be better off. And I was much more
great.
comfortable than some of my cohorts that decided to just hop right in with what they were wearing.
Mhm.
Because there was like right away moisture in the sleeping bag. The layers that you have, some of them were already soaked.
Yep. And you may not even realize it.
Yeah, and you don't feel it until sometimes you're sitting still, right?
Yep.
I received the exact same advice when I was in Scouts when I was a kid, but I was smarter than my grandpa, and so I knew better. And
yep.
boy, did it suck.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, so moisture is definitely the enemy, like you said. I mean, so whether it be in your sleeping bag, even after, like, if you're out there for a few days, sooner or later you have to wash your hands, wash your face, wash your undercarriage, whatever. So you got to make sure you take care of that moisture before you sit there and try and stay warm after you stop moving, right?
Yep.
So prepare
the two most important things I take with me when I go winter camping is like 4 washcloths, so I always have something dry, and Gold Bond to absorb the moisture.
Oh yeah.
Oh, good call.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, so like I was gonna say, my advice would be make sure you have like change your clothes daily, which sounds anal, but honestly, out there, if you're moving slower, you still gotta change your clothes and before bed, like I said, that's definitely something. What I used to do as well is I'd before I forget is hang the sleeping bag out. So after you get up and you got a fire going, you just open the sleeping bag up, put it inside out over a rope, and then make sure the fire gets to like dry off, as long as it's not snowing, of course. Get the fire to dry out the sleeping bag a little bit before you use it again the next night.
Yeah, good tip. Get that moisture out of it.
Yep.
Yeah, because it's very insidious, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
So speaking of insidious, hypothermia. So we should talk about that.
Hypothermia.
As part of it just doesn't.
So
not nearly
hypothermia has a whole.
Oh, go ahead.
There's a whole bunch of risks associated with hypothermia. The first sign for me of hypothermia, and this I'm going to give full credit to Mars Kachansky, the author of Bushcraft. I read this in his book many years ago. So if you're watching on the screen here, it's when you can't touch your pinky to your thumb anymore. Now I can do that no problem. When I can't touch my pinky to my thumb, that's time to take action. That's when you're starting to get too cold. The first sign is reduced mobility, and that's when you lose dexterity is the time to start going. One of the big challenges with hypothermia is that your blood doesn't clot. If you are hypothermic and you cut yourself because you can't hold onto your knife properly, it makes it harder for your blood to clot. You're going to bleed a lot more. Things get bad. That's all I'm going to say about hypothermia. Otherwise, come take a first aid class.
Well, I was going to say another sign is the slurring of the speech, which might be confused if you're sitting there having some boozies around the campfire. You might be slurring your speech for a different reason. But I'd say if the guy's sitting there slurring his speech and he starts taking off his toque because he tells you super duper warm and it's -30 out, that's probably a bad sign too.
Call that a clue.
Yeah, that's probably a good clue. Yeah. So of course,
it's not quite right.
Yeah. Dangers, of course, is. Go ahead.
I was going to say avoid alcohol when it's cold out, because when you are impaired, it makes it harder for you to regulate your body temperature. It makes it harder to understand when you're cold, when you're hot, and so you're more likely to sweat, which then makes you more likely to be cold later. It also makes it harder for you to understand that your body is actually going into shock. So.
Well, your belly might feel warm for a couple of minutes, but in reality, it actually opens up your pores and makes you lose heat faster too.
Yep.
So the warm belly is not a good sign.
And if you sweat, you die.
Yeah. So dangers, of course, we just mentioned the dying part, but also the fact is that you're unable to communicate. You might just go comatose and die for no reason. So a couple of cures for that: skin on skin contact, not as dirty as it sounds, but not
unless you make it that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Depends on who you're camping with, I suppose.
Yeah, not the best idea to do some extreme stuff like throwing in a hot bath or something, because actually there's a danger with the actual shock, because as your body's trying to keep the warm blood towards the core, if all of a sudden you warm them too fast, then all of a sudden the warm blood leaves, cold blood enters, and that's a problem. So slow, gradual reheating, heating pads, body heat, whatever have you, but just get them back in front of a fire and don't let them be stupid.
Yeah, slow and steady. You don't want to shock them.
Space blankets are good, except that they also trap moisture. So they don't allow for evaporation. I think we talked about this with when Gavin was on, when we were talking about like stop the bleed and major hemorrhage. Throw a few hand warmers in that mix. and you're in good shape.
Those things are awesome.
So adding heat is important as well as preventing heat loss.
Yeah.
So you want to stop the heat loss and then add heat, make it easier for your body to warm up. Warm drinks are good. Caffeine is less good. I've long been told and tend to believe that hot chocolate is the ultimate hypothermia fuel. It adds calories so your body can generate heat better, and it is warm so it reduces the heat loss.
And it's delicious.
Well, there's that too.
Leave the Baileys.
I would say avoid the marshmallows. Yeah.
So speaking of trying to stay warm and heating its up stuff, the fuel requirements for winter camping, I'd say you're definitely be burning more wood and more propane as required, right?
Oh, yep, absolutely.
Absolutely. And keep your fire going. It's a whole lot easier to keep a fire going than it is to restart one.
Yep.
Yeah, that being said, I mean, to keep a fire going all day requires a heck of a lot more wood than you would think. So you're going to have a much higher fuel requirement overall for winter camping. Because even when you're heating up a pot of water, I mean, the ambient air alone is going to be cooling that water pretty quickly too. So you got to make sure you got a high output burner or a good pan or a good pot.
This is a good time to use a stove, like the Getout Stayout stove that gives you some wind protection and helps create that chimney effect. Also, if you can build up a wind barrier, right? Use snow, and if you can happen to be able to get into the ground, if this is a good time to use your decotifier. I think everybody's probably read that at some point. If they're watching the podcast, they've read about a decotifier. You dig a hole, you dig a wind tunnel. And if you can do that, even if you can do that in the snow, then you're going to use less fuel than if you just have it out in the open air.
Same idea as a rocket stove too, but just built into the ground.
Yep, exactly.
Choice of fuels, I was going to mention too. If you're not burning wood and you're burning actual petroleum products, keep in mind that at certain temperatures, propane becomes less effective, and a butane mix becomes better. They both got their pluses and minuses, though, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely they do.
I want to say it's minus 33 is the boiling point for propane. So after below minus, I think it's below minus 20, propane becomes essentially ineffective.
Yeah,
it's not. It's you have to heat the tank in order to produce the vapor to create the gas flow. And please don't heat propane tanks.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a good idea.
What could possibly go wrong? So yeah,
battery blanket maybe, but please don't do that.
You're gonna warm up pretty quick.
So very quickly.
And also die. Hypothermia is no longer your biggest threat.
No, you don't got to worry about hypothermia. Nope.
So choice of fuels was one thing I was going to mention, but also if you're here in hippie land on the West Coast, it doesn't get below minus 20 generally. But if you go up in altitude, that can totally change. So a lot of people think it doesn't apply to them out here, but there are these large hills behind me that if you go up a couple thousand feet, it's not hard to get to minus 20 weather. So that does become a serious issue. So make sure you pay attention to your choice of fuel that you're bringing with you if you are winter camping and packing everything in with you.
It also changes the vapor density of the fuel, which makes it behave differently. So minus 20 might not be your biggest challenge if you're 2,000 feet above sea level.
Yeah. Kindling use, of course, trying to fight over the wet wood, because if you're chopping up wood in the snow, sooner or later there's going to get snow on the wood. It's going to get wet, which becomes harder to start your fires. Kindling, the only thing I was going to mention is if you don't bring little kindling sticks with you or whatever, cedar. Cedar's pretty much found across Canada, is it not?
Yep.
As far as I know, yep.
Yeah, no matter what, that if you split that stuff up, it'll burn. There's enough oil in it. It'll catch fire as good kindling would.
Yep.
So something to keep in mind that you can use in winter, rainstorms, whatever.
And
your friend.
The standing deadwood, so the stuff you can break off the trees that are still standing is your best bet. And there's also nothing wrong with taking some of those sticks and putting them inside your jacket to help dry them out.
Yep.
There's that more moisture problems again.
Yeah, you'll get there, but that's what you got the fire for, to dry it out.
That's what, but the solution might be worth it. One of the things I learned winter camping, if you're going to tent, is to bring your tarp down a little bit closer to your tent. So my favorite thing to do when I set up a tent is put up a tarp. Creates a sunshade, gives you good rain protection. But if you get it down close, it'll actually add another insulating layer so that you're losing less heat from inside your tent.
Yeah, before I forget about the insulating layers too. So if you're sleeping on the ground, obviously sleeping on the snow is not a good idea. Nor is just putting a tarp down and sleeping on top of the tarp on top of the snow. So you guys do you guys do the pine bough trick and all of this stuff, or? Like you guys try and get some
Yeah,
airspace between.
I've used pine boughs. I've used last few times I've been camping has been November, deer season ish. And what I do is just take a couple of big thick foam pads,
Yeah.
and then put those down. Put a winter sleeping bag down, and then sleep in another winter bag. And that's been adequate for me.
I've got a little camp cot, so right up off the ground.
Oh, he's glamping. That's it.
Yeah, I'm glamping. Yep.
Yeah.
See, and I've got a cot as well, but I've always been afraid of that because too much air movement underneath yourself sleeping can also be bad.
Yep. I usually take the bag or whatever I've got my clothes in, goes underneath the cot, and then away you go.
Yeah. Well, you
cut
also
down a little bit on that.
Yep, that solves that problem.
You mentioned the lean-to as well. Like another thing to
Yep.
orient your lean-to in the right direction is as long as you have the back of the lean-to into the prevailing wind, so it doesn't blow into your lean-to, kind of blows past it. That's a bit of a thing to keep you warmer too. So if there is any wind blowing, that's always a handy trip. Edibles. I was going to mention not.
What kind of party is this?
Yeah, edibles. Not the marijuana edibles that are available at the local government mandated, restricted license cannabis store. But I was going to say, like, not too much in the way of wild edibles available in wintertime, is there?
Nope.
No.
Rabbits, deer,
Yeah.
squirrels.
Which leads me to my next topic. So keep in mind there's not as much in the way of stuff to find to eat. So obviously you're going to pack in most of your food. But if you want to give trapping a try, like with snares or actual traps or whatever, if you have the legal ability to do so, trapping is a thing in wintertime because it's easier to find the game trails where the game is running. Even if it's just squirrels up and down the trees, you can see which trees are being used, right?
Yeah, it's very easy to see.
So I mean, if you're going to start there tromp around in winter boots in knee-deep snow, trying to go hunting for deer or whatever, you're going to get sweaty.
You are. Been there. Yep.
Yeah, so the sweat and deep snow are killers indeed. So that's just number one concern is to not get too worked up there.
Yep.
Hence the moving slow thing.
Yep. And
Move
have
slow.
a change of clothes.
Yes.
Well, that's pretty much all I had. You guys got anything?
Yeah.
Pack water.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that.
General rules. General rules are that ice yields twice the water of snow for half the heat. So if you have access to ice, melt the ice for water instead of snow. If you are going to use snow, then pack it as densely as you can. Your best bet is to put a little bit in the pot and melt it, and then add more snow on top, and you're going to find that melts the snow a whole lot faster. But if you're relying on melted snow, then you're in a world of hurt already. I'm not above. I have a little buddy propane heater that I've taken into my tent. It keeps me nice and cozy before bed, and then I will be the first one to admit that I've lit it half an hour before I'm going to get up in the morning, wake up, light my little heater, and let it warm the air for 20 minutes, half an hour before I get out of the bag, and that makes things a whole lot more pleasant.
Well, that's the catalytic heater that's pretty much safe for indoor use as long as you have an air source, right?
As long as you've got an air source, yep. It's they say you can't use it inside, but within a tent, it's not airtight enough that that's going to be an issue, and it's not like I'm running it all night or anything. And
before you guys beat me to it, number one piece of advice: don't eat yellow snow.
Never eat yellow snow.
There it is.
Actually, so snow. 1 centimeter of snow is equivalent to 1 millimeter of rain. So again, if you're gonna start melting snow, you need a lot. So like Alan's advice is pretty sound, I think, on that.
Yep.
But so if you're near a lake, of course,
use the top layers. Avoid the dirty stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the yellow
But if you can use water, like if you can warm up running water, it's just going to use less heat than trying to melt snow.
Yeah.
But of course, like everything, if you get your hands wet, get them dry as quick as you can, because man, does it ever suck trying to run tools with wet, cold hands. Things just stop working quickly.
Don't put them back in your gloves.
No.
Don't put them back in your gloves. Your armpits and your groin are the warmest spots in your body.
Yep.
I've been caught standing with my hands tucked under my armpits many times. Just
Warm up quick though.
just keeping them warm.
Yep,
Absolutely.
All right. Maybe
That's about all I have. Multiple light layers is better than big thick layers.
Yep.
Yeah, and actually, Costco has a nice little merino wool base layer, cheaper than pretty much anywhere else. I think it's $16 for a nice little base layer.
Yeah.
And
I saw that. I was in Costco yesterday, and I was thinking actually I'm gonna be in town on the weekend. I might stop in and grab a set and do a review because all my base layers are the old waffle type, and you know what? They keep me warm, but it's it's not good at wicking moisture. So, I guess one more thing. Wool will retain something like 85% of its moisture of its insulating ability when it gets wet. It's one of the best things out there for all the synthetic downs and polyester, blah 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 blah. Wool is still the best for retaining heat when it's wet, especially your socks. Get the real wool socks.
And the merino wool is not itchy, despite what the legend is about wool. So that's why I mentioned the Costco stuff, because if it's merino, chances are it's not gonna be that bad. So I picked up instead of long johns. I'm gonna grab the shirt I think next week too, and give it a try for hunting.
I'm off to Costco tomorrow now.
Yep, I think I'm going Sunday now.
Nice. Cool. Well, I've got a quick little review here. The Getout Stayout grill. They donated one for me to try out on not winter camping, but I figured it's still an appropriate episode to talk about it on, because we did go out pretty much to the middle of nowhere. And where did everybody go?
I did that.
Oh, you did that.
I was going to say you could show the grill for everybody.
Oh, gotcha. All right. Well, let's do that then. So I thought I lost everybody. This is it. So, yeah, it's pretty handy little grill, and it folds out. So you got a little top layer as well. So you got two spots you can cook on, which is nice. And it's nice, folds down nice and small. This is the small version of the grill. They got a larger one as well, but it's well made, nice and thick, and the idea is you just take it and put it over top of your fire, and you can cook away with it. So worked out quite well. I brought the large...
on the weight.
What was that, sorry?
How much does it weigh, do you figure?
It's a couple pounds.
Yeah,
it's not terrible, but it's made of it's good quality. Like, it's good, heavy. It's not flimsy at all. It's once it's set up, it's good and sturdy. It made it through our backcountry trip, no problem. Didn't break or anything, and we're pretty hard on gear when we go out, so that's good.
Cool.
And so I set it up, and there was about six or seven of us out in the trip. So like I said, we were literally out in the middle of nowhere. It's a couple hours on the trails to get to where we go, and I threw it up on the campfire there, and just made some burgers on not this one. This is the one we're giving away later, but the one they sent me to test out, and threw some burgers on it, and they came out perfect. So it was good. We were able to get the burgers going on the fire there. Everybody was fed, and cleaned up nice too. Easy, nothing to it. Just paper towel and a little bit of dish soap, and back to as if it was new. I do swear this is not the one that I brought out with us though. But yeah, it's a good grill, nice quality. Like I said, it took a beating because we're hard on the gear, but it worked great, and I'll be taking it with me on our next camping trip for sure.
Cool.
Yeah, and they've got like I said, they've got the two sizes. This one here I showed in the camera is a smaller one, so it'd be a lot easier to bring with you if you say you don't have a vehicle or you're doing a lot more walking versus the larger one. You're going to want some mode of transportation for the larger one, but the smaller one, you can some weight to it, but you can certainly throw it in a backpack if you have to and bring it with you. Oh, did we lose Alan?
He's still there?
He's a spinning wheel.
Oh, well. Let's move on to the podcast challenge, I guess.
Yeah, he's gone. So let's move to, I'll just get my notes back up here, podcast challenge.
All right. So for this podcast challenge, I just thought maybe we should all try and go out and find a jacket, toque, and sleeping bag that you're comfortable sleeping in winter with. So my recommendation to you ignore me at your will for sure, at your leisure. But go to the surplus store, not MEC, because it's not a fashion show at this point when you're out in the middle of winter. So rather than spending a fortune on an Arc'teryx jacket, go get a extreme cold weather parka that's ex-military in an ugly color. You probably spend about a quarter of the money. So that's just my 2 bits anyway.
Yeah, so when you've done that, we're actually going to give away this grill here. So the one that I was showing earlier there. So again, Getout Stayout has been nice enough to donate that to us to give away. So just flip an email in to feedback@prepperpodcast.ca and let us know that you've participated in the podcast challenge. And then I will put your name into a draw, and I'll put everybody's name into a hat, and we will pull that out in the next episode and let you know who wins. So,
and I'll say pictures or it didn't happen.
Pictures or it didn't happen. And if you don't want your name read out on the show for the draw, just let me know what you would want me to put on the slip, and I'll use that, as long as it's of course appropriate. I'm not going to read out something inappropriate. But yeah, if you want to use an alias or something, just let me know what alias you want to use, and I can match it up with the email that I get, and that way your real name isn't read out if you don't want that. And yeah, so just flip an email into feedback@prepperpodcast.ca, and this grill here can be yours.
So no Bodie McBoat faces on the draw or anything else?
No.
Okay. Right on. Split it.
All right.
Oh, Alan said his internet broke, so he's not coming back anytime soon.
Okay. Well, this is not something more serious. That's good. Zombies didn't get him.
Nope, not this time.
Nope.
Not today, zombies. Not today.
Not today. Unless it's them chewing on his internet line.
Could be. Sneaky little guys, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Yeah. So we got any upcoming events?
Yeah. So we've actually got a interesting one. I thought it was actually organized by, I think, the government, which is really more shocking.
Are we allowed to talk about this?
Yeah. Instagram.com/shakeoutbc. So it's October 17th at 10:17. Pretty crafty there. It's 10:17, October 17th. Basically, they want everybody in BC to participate in an earthquake drill. So go to the Instagram account that it's on the show notes there, and it's basically just trying to raise awareness about earthquake preparedness, and they want everybody to kind of do something to basically show that they're a little bit prepared for when the big one hits on the West Coast. So I thought it was worthy of a mention anyways.
Nice.
At least they're trying. They may not be good at it, but at least they're trying.
Yep. Well, that's good. Get the word out there, right?
Yeah.
And how about shout outs?
Well, show just isn't the same with Alan, so I'll give him a quick shout out. We miss him already.
Yeah.
But this is actually mentioned to me by somebody else on our Facebook page. I thought it was definitely worth a mention. So the man who saved the world just recently died, which is sad to hear. So for those that don't know who I'm talking about, the guy's name is Stanislav Petrov. And back in the 80s, it was. They were trying out a new early warning system in the Soviet Union for incoming missiles from the United States. First couple days in operation, the warning system declared that the U.S. had launched a massive attack at the Soviet Union, and they were about to get nuked. So all Stanislav Petrov had to do was pick up the phone, and basically the world would have ended, because the Soviet doctrine at the time was massive retaliation, so they didn't get caught with their pants down. So, but cooler heads prevailed in his part, and he basically said, this doesn't look right. And it is the first kind of week in operation of the system. So despite his underlings, I guess at the time, were pressuring him to make the phone call, and he stood his ground and said, no, I think there's something wrong. This doesn't make sense. The U.S. would launch more than 5 or 6 missiles at us. In the end, instead of having the world end, it turned out that the warning system merely detected basically the sun rising and reflecting off stuff on the ground. And they mistook that heat bloom on the ground as a missile launch. So in the end, he ended up getting demoted and didn't get much in the way of recognition until much later, but he did basically save the world from getting blown up. So I thought it was worthy of a mention for Mr. Petrov.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So thanks, Stanislav. I would have been 10 when the world ended, so that would have sucked.
I won't mention how old I would have been.
Don't start.
I won't. So email and iTunes reviews. So
I got one from YouTube. From Kevin. He actually helped us out. Actually, it made me a little more aware of something. So he mentioned that no canning jars are made in Canada. I thought the Bernardins were, but I was actually mistaken. I was less right. How does that sound? It is a common misconception that the Bernardin manufactures their jars in Canada because of the labeling on their boxes, but they're actually made by Jardin in the U.S., and Bernardin is the Canadian brand name for the parent company Jardin. The other manufacturer would be Bell, and they are in the U.S. or Ball, sorry, and they are in the U.S. as well. But I did a little more Google Foo, and I discovered the conspiracy runs deeper than that. So it turns out that the Golden Harvest, which I thought was made in China, actually revealed a huger conspiracy because Golden Harvest brand mason jars for home canning are a lower priced line of mason jars sold by the Newell Corporation, which also owns Ball, Bernardin, and Care.
Ooh.
So they own them all.
Well.
Yeah, so it turns out that every single mason jar you buy in North America is made by the same manufacturer. They just use different pretty names. So it basically boils down to like what you think you're getting GM or Ford or Toyota, but in reality you're just getting the same stuff with just different labeling.
So pick the label you like and buy it.
Yep. Doesn't seem like there'd be much of an addition to the quality of the glass.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Learn something new every day.
Yeah.
So let's see here. For iTunes reviews, we are up to 32 5-stars, 1 4-star, and we still got that one little guy 1-star keeping us honest. And we've got a review here as well, a new one from September 13th. It says, extremely informative panelists are clearly geniuses, and man, that guy Ian is seriously handsome. Behold the awesomeness of the Prepper Podcast.
Man, sounds like an extremely clever guy.
It does sound like an extremely clever guy. I think it might even be a panelist.
I did not submit a review. Anyway, you said you wanted a review, so I just thought I'd help you out.
Appreciate it.
Man, no worries.
And it was a 5-star too. That was very, it was very nice of you.
No worries.
I'd almost expect a 1-star.
Well,
just
only
to get me riled up again.
If I was doing a solo show, maybe it'd be a 1-star. But
gotcha. Well, we'll take the 5-star review. Look at that. We're starting to try to bump up our own stats. What else we got here? Email wise, the inbox is empty. But it is what it is. We're starting to get spam, so at least people are picking up on the email address.
Well, and the good news is, if one person sends in something for the winter camping challenge, I guess they're going to win.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Can I try for this one too?
Well, you can use your alter ego that you use for your your review there.
Yeah. Let's get another Gmail address. Figure it out.
There you go. Yeah. All right. So I think with that, I'll bring episode number 37 of the Canadian Prepper Podcast to an end. You can find the podcast on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, and your favorite podcast app. Please help us out. Take a few minutes, submit a review. It helps other people find us, and you can find us at prepperpodcast.ca and, of course, on Facebook.
All right. We record these shows on StreamYard now. If you want an early peek at the shows, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, Canadian Prepper Podcast, and click the notifications tab. That gives you alerts when we are going live. You can contact Alan directly at Instagram at BPSWO. Now, for myself, you can reach me directly by emailing me at theislandretreat@gmail.com. You can also find me at Canadian Patriot Podcast, also available on iTunes and YouTube. There you can find us discussing more government waste, squirreling off on the odd firearms-related banter, and exposing the daily loss of freedoms we're facing, especially lately during election time.
And they're back on the air now?
Well, they did they did 2 episodes without me here recently because they kind of had to change around their schedule a bit. But I think they're back regularly on Monday, starting this Monday. And
our download rate is still higher?
You know what? Actually, I think they took a little spike up too. So now it's a contest. Good. So
good. All right.
It's on.
Excellent. Sounds good. Please check out Rapid Survival. That's at rapidsurvival.com. You can get me there on the live chat while, of course, buying some prepper gear. You can also email me at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca. Don't forget about that podcast challenge. And thanks for joining us. And tune in for the next episode where we're going to be talking with the firearms legal defense. So until next time, be prepared, stay safe,
and keep learning.